Good evening, Oriole Nation. Welcome to our board meeting.
Okay, well, we had recessed briefly, so we're going to move back into open session at this. So I'll have the clerk call the, I'll need a motion. I'll make the motion. Second. All right, roll call. Yes.
Beckman. Yes. Mackey. Yes. Bogowski, yes. Yeager.
Okay. So then the first item, now that we're back, is item G, the board mission statement and agreements by Dr. Nino.
So just reminding ourselves that the mission statement we have for the board is that we will develop policy that is representative of our community, set goals, and lead our district by collaborating. And those elements, kind of just going up here, those agreements of standing up and owning it. So whatever we say we do, we're doing that without judgment, but we're willing to make and own intentionally whatever we act on. The power of team, which is really about coming together, leaning and learning together, so we can do what's best interest of our whole district, but especially our students. And then passion for growth. We're always learning every single day. We're asking questions, we inquiry, and we're curious before being non-judgmental.
Item H, consent agenda. Entertain a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda, which include the February 27th, 2023 regular board minute meetings and the treasurer's report. Second. Roll call.
Mackey.
Yes.
Hawk.
Yes.
Bogowski, yes. Yeager.
Yes.
Beckman.
Okay. And my board members share the moment of pride. This is a monthly thing that we've been doing for a while now, where each board member has an opportunity to share something positive, something that they have some pride in the district. So, would you like to start?
Sure. As much as I'm busy with everything, I haven't been around lately. So everything that I know is really kind of a cool thing is that our choir director, Anthony Rosenson, actually reffed in the state tournament, the boys state tournament over the weekend. So I heard North Fond du Lac and I had to look when I was watching. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that he was going to do that. So I just thought that was awesome.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, I'll go, when I won this time, just to the robotics program. I know it's been a very busy month for them. They had state, and many of the teams qualified actually for nationals in Dallas, which I think is pretty cool. I think it's the end of April, if I'm not mistaken, but just wish them luck in. I coach youth basketball, and I walk by that robotics room every time I'm going to coach, and it's packed, but a lot of energy, so I'm sure they'll do well in Dallas as well.
Well, I was going to mention robotics as well, but also forensics, choral, and band, all that competitions. A lot of good participation, and I especially want to reach out, give a shout out to the coaches, the advisors, and the teachers that put in so much time with all these different clubs and activities.
So yeah, I want to know about you if you want to go next.
Right, I was going to mention the Toxic team as well. Congratulations to the team and everyone out to state. I also wanted to mention the class officers for next year and congratulate them as well. It seems like they're quite a representative of students in the class officers and the representatives. It seems like there's students involved, and it's good to see that there's many students involved in each class as part of that class officers.
And then it's been just a short week, so 2 weeks since our last thing, but I've been the weather, and then we've had some interesting weather in the last month. And weather that have gotten up early and brought my wife to school in the early morning hours. So I want to give a shout out for the maintenance and custodial crew with the winter weather maintenance. They're always out there, getting plowed, getting salted, getting entrances open and everything. So that usually includes early get up, wake up for them to get out and do it. pass that on to the crew that we all, I'm sure we all appreciate their efforts. All right, then moving along to item J. Friendship Learning Center administrators along with student representatives are here to share tonight.
So thank you for having us. We have some students in 3rd grade in Mrs. Coates' class, and then we also have some students in 4th grade in Ms. Chia's class. So I'm actually going to turn it over to Amber to start with our 3rd graders, and then Ms. Chia as well.
If you come right in front, that'd be awesome, so we can all see you.
Definitely.
3rd grade.
Yeah.
Guys, 3rd grade. My friends, we're first. Y'all have any connection concepts to the board members? Okay, so yeah, you guys can just have your paper packets to the board members and you can.
Thank you very much.
We have been busy this month with our baby literary essay, getting ready for the board exam. We've been reading various texts and doing Pixar short films to get the text evidence to really help us in our writing. So they have brought their literary essays today to share with you.
Hi, my name is Avery Johnson. I have gone as a writer as I have been writing baby literary essays and adding more into my introduction, part, and conclusion. I love writing in my classroom because my teacher has helped me and my other classmates very much, and she is helping us get ready for our board exam. My teacher is Mrs. Coates. She helps us so much. I love my classroom, my teacher, because she is so nice and me and my classmates know how hard she works for us. We all appreciate it very much. I love how much we are improving on our writing. We are trying our very best. All of our writing pieces are good, and we know how good they are. Use Kindness by Jacqueline Winston. People are unkind to mine. Have you ever been unkind before? Because in Use Kindness by Jacqueline Winston, people are unkind to mine. One example is one day Maya came to school wearing a fancy dress and fancy suits. They looked like someone else's before boys. I have a new name for her. Never, Kenzie said. A part of the story is when Andrew whispered to me and said, Chloe's got a new friend. Chloe's got a new friend. She's not my friend, I whispered back. The last example is when the weeks passed. Every day, me, Kenza, and Sophie laughed at Maya's clothes, the weird food she bought for lunch, and her shoes. These are 3 reasons and examples that people are unkind to Maya. Hi, my name is Carter Tillman, and I have been writing baby literary essays in Miss Coates' class. I have grown as a writer because how I have each writing I kept on improving with my conclusion, speed, and body of it. I just kept making my body longer, adding like details to my read. That's how I've been growing as a writer. In each kindness by Jacqueline, what some people are unkind to mine. One example that this shows when Kendra says, I have a new name for her, Never. It teases her for writing second hand close. This is important because it shows that they tease Maya and they don't like an unkind to Maya. Another reason why people are unkind to Maya is because it says, behind me, Andrew whispered, Chloe's friend from Chloe's friend from. She's not my friend, I wish her back. This is important because it shows how people don't like Maya and they really lastly, the last reason why people come to Maya is because it says whenever she asked us to play, we said no. This is important because it shows that how they don't like Maya, they tease her about stuff, and how they don't like Maya. This is proof that each kindness people are unkind to Maya.
Freely.
My name is Luke. I just want to thank these books for teaching me all I know about literacy, essays, and writing. Peter's Chair by Judy Andrews. Have you ever been reading? In the book Peter's Chair, Peter is reading. One example that shows us is Peter was playing with his block and his dog ran right through and they came crashing down. She called his mom. We have a baby in the house. Peter looked in his sister's room and saw his mom messing with the cradle. That's my cradle, and they painted it pink. Another example that shows us is when hi Peter, said his father, would you like to help paint sister's high chair? It's my high chair, Peter whispered. He saw his crib and muttered, my crib, it's painted pink too. Not far away stood his old chair. They haven't painted that yet, Peter shouted. Another example that shows us is Peter picked up his chair and ran to his room. Let's not run away with Lily, he said. Peter filled a shopping bag with cookies and dog biscuits. We'll take my blue chair, my toy crocodile, and a picture of me when I was a baby. Lily got his bow. They went outside and stood at the front of his house. This is a good place, said Peter. He arranged his things very nicely and decided to sit in his chair for a while. But he didn't fit in the chair. It was too big. As you see, there are many ways to show Peter is greedy. I have grown in writing by writing leads and evidence to back it up. I also grown by reading and writing only three examples. And I will try to make it the best it could be. And one more thing, I have grown by learning how to write essays. Snack attack. Have you ever been really mean? In the short snack attack, the old lady is mean. In the beginning, the old lady bought some cookies and it wouldn't come out. So the old lady kicked, banged, and ran into the vending machine to get her cookies. In the middle, the boy was messing with the old lady, and the old lady got frustrated. So the old lady started to yell and wave her arm. In the end, the old lady gets on her bus and opens her purse and sees her snack and realizes that one of the boys. This is important because it's not nice to eat someone's snack and yell at them. As you can see, the old lady is really mean.
I am Pam Chia. I'm a fourth grade teacher, and we just finished up a unit on historical fiction. And the students got to choose from a board of projects to demonstrate their understanding of character traits, theme, and life messages in the book Remember the stops. Something was weird. There were two Navy soldiers that was coming for us, and me and Kirsty stopped, and Anne-Marie stopped, and the Nazi soldier said, "Why are you running?" Said the soldier. In a harsh voice, and I still remember eating like if it was with Anne-Marie's best friend Ellen. Ellen is Jewish, and the Nazis are relocating Jews. Anne-Marie and her family have to do everything in their heart to save Ellen and her family from being separated forever. Do you think Anne-Marie will ever see Ellen again? It's a story of fairness for the Danish and Jewish people. A story of bravery during World War II. A story of friendship between Anne-Marie and Ellen. A story of courage. A story of survival, one within the complete truth not always told, so we can protect others. Will Anne-Marie be able to protect Ellen? Questions by any of our students or teachers?
Next question. How, did it take you a long time to do some of that work, or? I get this and I get this. There you go. Kind of. How about the when drawing, these things up? Did that take a little bit more time? What's that? Here's another question. Have you ever been up in front of a room with this many people in it before and having to read or write? You did really well. You did really well. Nice job. Thanks for being here tonight. It means a lot. Work so hard, they're so smart.
And a huge thank you to our teachers who helped prepare and basically get everybody here too.
Thanks for all the families that were available.
Thank you again.
Letting these people get up there and do that. I mean, when they get that age, they'll be up there. Yeah, I know. I guess they don't want to hear about the strategic planning. Sure. Or Aiden. Right?
That is that where some of the staff members are here?
What's that?
Strategic planners, some of the high school.
No, they're here for the crisis management. Oh, yeah. So, okay. Yep. We need you to come up in front right now.
I got this entire section myself, so I think I might just sit.
Okay.
That's okay.
We'll take it. We'll take it.
I think they were all kind of clear here. I guess all right, so next item is item K, the Horseman High School Student Council representative, President Reed Fowler, their monthly report.
Yeah, and so it's great to be with all of you again. This is the last meeting, but that's because our senior class was attending our seniorship at the wilderness in those Nfdls. Everyone that attended had an amazing opportunity to bond with their classmates for one last time for the year, and it was truly amazing to participate in.
You chose that over
Yep.
the wilderness? Oh.
Yeah, sorry.
We put them in the minutes.
Oh, yeah, okay. And with our student council report, as the year is coming to an end, it's time to turn back the clocks and promote what our council has achieved throughout the year. So in September, we were able to swing into the flow of board meetings again. There hasn't been student representatives in in-person board meetings since before COVID. So that was definitely a big thing. Going through October, it was all about homecoming, spirit weeks, the dance, and everything else that went along with that. In November, we raised $1,504 for district families through our fourth fundraiser. In December, we were able to spread holiday cheer through Spirit Week right before Christmas for the holidays. In January, we started our family night planning. February was our winter ball, super successful. We had a bunch of students participate in that. I missed that one too. So, and then in March, we, like mentioned earlier, we held our class elections, class councils. So, student council elections for next year will occur before the end of April. Our meeting schedules have fluctuated a little bit, so we weren't able to get in our meeting on that. But I should have our next council president at the April board meeting. He'll just be with me, Nate, if he's able to make it. And then they'll be able to experience that. So though we were unable to host a family night event, we still have many items to raffle off. So we will be holding our raffle. Hopefully we'll use our school's Facebook page to promote that further. But we'll have more information. When it comes to Key Club, one of our clubs featured this month. During last week, our Key Club conducted an election for the executive board. All positions, president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer were up for election. As the Key Club service is coming to an end, we can expect to see these outstanding students in action starting their service term in May. So those that were elected as president, Madeline Langlock, vice president, Luis Garcia, secretary, Kiana Schrocknagel, and treasurer, Brad McKean. These officers will undergo an executive board training by the sitting members of our board, where they'll learn the ins and outs of being in such leadership positions and experience what it takes to curate a successful club that we've been able to bring back being dead in COVID. On another note, I was actually able to attend the Wisconsin Upper Michigan Key Club District, their district convention, which was this past weekend. Again, Thursday, school, because we had a board meeting. I actually served on the state board as lieutenant governor. And then our convention ended yesterday. So during the convention, the North Carolina Key Club was represented in a few different awards. Morgan Fowler, Luis Garcia, Kelsey Forsythe, Phil Bosco, Kiana Schroffnagel, and myself were awarded the District Service Hour Award for performing at least 50 hours of community service throughout the year. And then additionally, Luis Garcia, Kelsey Forsythe, and myself were awarded the Commitment to Key Club Service Award, which is awarded for those who complete more than 75 hours of service throughout the service year. Other awards include the Distinguished Lieutenant Governor Award, which was awarded to myself, and the awarding and overachieving Lieutenant Governor, which was also awarded to myself. We're hoping to start the new service year very strong. If anyone has any questions about Key Club or has any ideas for service events that we can participate in, please contact our advisors, Gene Hintz or Nicole. So we're always looking for new events. Just a little bit more. National Honor Society is welcoming next year's officers, Abraham Mauer, Summer Belanda, Faith Tillman, and Alec Edge to this organization. The officers will begin their service term at the beginning of the next school year. But before that, please mark your calendars for the National Honor Society induction banquet on April 16th at 5 o'clock. We'd love to have the board and district officials there at the event. If you're interested, please either reach out to myself or Gene Hintz before Wednesday to secure your spot. Because of catering, there's I think it's $20. But that should be feasible. And for closing, 50 days. That's all we have left, around 50. We're so close to completing this race of a year. We appreciate everyone in our community who has gotten our school, our class, and everyone else in our school districts to the point we are today. You are all the superheroes we see.
Very nice. The boards have any questions? I have two quick ones. What was the April date on that?
April 16th.
Yeah, I mean, this is just curiosity. Typically, the senior trip is right near the end of the year, or sometime, and it's noticed that right down earlier this year when I was coming.
So last year, actually, they hosted their senior trip in, it was early, it was like November, or it was October. They went to breakfast. There were individuals that wanted to go to breakfast, but as a class, we wanted to go more towards the end of the year. Right in between the long stretch between winter break and spring break, we could have done something later, but we wanted that little break in between.
It does get pretty hectic.
Yep.
Yeah. Any other questions from board members? Thank you very much. And now is the clerk's report. Okay, then item M is citizen comment. Or to any citizens who have comments from the board. 7:39. Item M, superintendent's report. One is visit to the Palmer Crisis Management.
So, first of all, thank you. I'm sure I have to report today. But one of the things we've been able to start up since the beginning of the year, or a little bit after the beginning of the year, is just to really look at school safety as a district. And again, I'm gonna turn it over to my colleagues over here that are with us this evening to share some of that, and then I'll wrap up after everyone's done. But I'll come on up and share a little bit of the happenings of what's been going on with this work as a safety committee for the district.
So let's quickly introduce ourselves. Brad Rank, assistant principal of Learning Centers.
Kristen Welter, I am in health. Jill Gable, school counselor, Horse County. So kind of adding on with Dr. Minoan said is, we had created this team of about 20 plus members this year. We had started having discussions, and we noticed that there were some inconsistencies amongst buildings with the language with our safety team. So after creating this team, we were meeting about once a month, sometimes more if we did. And amongst that, this was extremely helpful because we were able to really have all the stakeholders of everybody that was involved. We were able to create and collaborate and create common language amongst all of the schools as to how it should look, for whether that's visitors coming into the building, people like me who travel to all the different buildings, or having a plan in place for where we want to go, where our guest teachers are able to come in and feel comfortable, in those situations if there were to be a safety situation arise.
Yeah, so what we did is we thought we'd start small, but we went a little big. We were like, well, this is important stuff to not only us, but our families, our community. Like we know, unfortunately, we look in the news quite often, we see these things. We just want to be as a team consistent and on the same page. So we knew it was a big lift, but we know how important it is to this community and to the school district. So we kind of came up with a new crisis management plan. In recent years, we kind of had the big paper emergency response plan. I'm sure you guys are somewhat familiar with it. There's a lot of wording in it. It's harder to find things. Sometimes you got to piece through a lot. So if you're looking for information, it takes a little longer. So what we kind of developed here is just a little more easy friendly, where it's going to be very building specific in terms of what is on. So we know we have separate different types of responses and actions to those responses. So some of our real big ones are obviously our active threat, or what we used to call lockdown. We'd like to change some of that wording because when we talk about lockdown, it means a lot of different things for a lot of different people. So we want to be really specific on what that means. So that's one of the areas we kind of looked at and wanted to change our wording a little bit, so we knew what that meant for people. So that's one of our big ones. You have hold and then get in, stay in. Those are kind of our big three that we're looking at. So you want to click on one. Sure. All these are active threats, accessible. So this will be like something we like to have within the shared drive. So every building has access to this. So if we get new teachers or there's substitutes in the building, this is going to be available for them. This is the bigger piece. So each section will have kind of a response and who's responsible for that action. So you can see on top, this is our active threat. You can see our school resources. So some of those numbers are there. We have to still fill some things in. It is a work in progress yet. This type of stuff is always a work in progress. It's always changing, but some of those numbers and things we'll get to. It goes into the next section. So each response or action will have a response action for administrators and then also for staff. So what is our responsibility as an administrator, and what is staff's responsibility within that situation. So it really kind of breaks it down in a nice simple way to say, hey, I'm just wondering about how this active threat within the district. This gives you a general idea hey, what am I responsible for? So as you can see, I'm not going to go through all of it, but it's really kind of in depth what administration does, and then what is our staff's responsibility. So we're really trying to focus on our paging systems and hey, where is that threat? How do we identify where it is? So we can make those hard decisions to say, yes, we're going to evacuate, or no, we're going to run. We're going to barricade. One of the two. So, and those aren't easy decisions. So the more we can communicate, the more we have those pieces, we feel like that will help with some of those things. So it just kind of goes through some of the basic stuff of what teachers need to do or think about. We always want to think about students' specific stuff or needs, and special needs, a lot of diabetics, those types of things that we have to kind of wrap our heads around, and what does that look like, and how do we do that in certain situations. Most recently we had a power outage. That one's not on there. It will be. So we've had some fortunate, unfortunate opportunities to reflect, to say, hey, what are our needs and what do they look like in every building? So I think it's really important that we have 3 members in all 3 schools here, because that's where we need to go in terms of what our language is. And if I walk into the high school or I walk into my house, I know what to do. that's the biggest thing when we're talking about safety, is do you know what to do? And so like, that's kind of where we're coming from as a team. It gets down then to some related responses. I won't go into all of it, but this is just kind of a document we're just looking to show and say, hey, this is something we're working on. I know you guys have to kind of go through it, but it is a big lift, but there's a lot of good things in there in terms of how we pull this information quickly, or how we provide staff with that information. We can go on and on, gas, fire leaks. We're doing a lot of conversations about what is our reunification plan, where do we go? Like, we're working with community church, hopefully in the next few weeks, to say, hey, what can this look like, and what can you provide for us to get a process in place, in the event something, bigger would happen. We have that in place. Again, it comes back to do we know what to do. With that being said, we also developed, I'm just going to pass it on real quick, it's just something we hope to get within our buildings, all buildings, and around North Fond du Lac. Just like, so people are in our building, they kind of have a general quick idea of, hey, like, what do I do, or what does this look like? We have our big three on there. You can see active threat, our hold, and then get in, stay in. So it just gives a real brief, quick, hey, what a teacher's responsibility, what a student's responsibility.
So this is something I'm thinking, just to add something to have hanging visible, so that anybody who's in that room right away, sometimes when an emergency or a situation occurs, people start to, I'm not sure what that call was, right away they can look at this. These are like our three main ones, and it's divided up so the teachers can look specifically at what that would look like. And this will also help us in practicing and working with the kids, so that in the future, the more drills we do, the more things we do to practice, just to get people more comfortable, as comfortable as you can get.
One of the other things that we did very early on was just put stickers on the back of our badges, so that we know exactly, when you're in freeze mode, exactly what you need to dial to make an on-call to everybody.
Yeah, and one of the big things on top of that was, like I mentioned, with me being in different buildings, it's a different number to push in each building. So, like, knowing for me to have what FLC is if I'm over here, and we've also, brought in Arts for Kids and Trevor, and there's so many people that are involved in this team that it's been great to be able to share those ideas and just really bounce ideas off of each other as to what's going to help all of us collectively as a team.
Yeah, any big questions on this first? I know it's a lot. We can go probably all night on this. Talk about it for real. It's a big lift, but it's important stuff, and there's been a lot of collaboration on it, a lot of input, like I said, from Trafford and other areas within our district too, that we have a lot of people in that room talking about this stuff. Dave, I know Dave's there too, and so it's kind of been all everybody on board and having their collaboration and their input. This is kind of what we came up with.
So moving forward, our next few bits that we're really focusing on is being able to make sure that we're communicating it out to all of the staff, so that it's not, 3 people up here who would be able to reiterate it, but to make sure everybody in all of our buildings would be familiar with it. And then we've talked about it for a while in our district, running some drills, making it feel that scenario so that we could go through it. Because again, when you don't do it very often, you freeze, or you miss important steps, and we want to make sure that everything that we do is for the safety of all of our students. One of our quick things that we did early on was create some basic scripts, so that we have some of that communication already to roll out. And as we go through some more of these scenarios, we'll continue with that. And then I think we mentioned it a couple times, the reunification process. So, we all have a site right now, but it's outdoor in the weather. It's the crux. And so if something happens in February, that's not a realistic place. Plus, there's a lot of points of entrance there. So parents can come and grab students without us being prepared. So we're looking at a facility that's large enough that can host us and have a plan in place, so that if we ever need to use it, families know exactly what to do.
Excellent. Sounds like you've done a lot of work. is this, there's a plan that has to be submitted to DPI. Is this going to be our replacement for that then that has to be submitted and approved, or just local that we're going to just use more practical terms?
I think depending on what we need for DPIs, we have to talk through this, but I'd like to bridge this so that the work that we've done is all here as well. The bottom line is that we have something available for everyone. It's easy touch points so that we get that. It's all common and consistent language. I feel like the team has done an excellent job of trying to get together and a lot of voices in the room, and it's all great for us. And again, this comes with like the initial steps of like reworking the language and also community training. And so that people do feel like things were hacked and not have to think about it, because even in the situation you're in freeze, and as we mentioned before, how are they best equipped with the best possible scenario so they can do the best they can for our kids and for everybody else. So
Like the excitement of being able to work with the other buildings and put it all on the same page or same thing.
in our village, police department as well as fire department have been invited. I mean, Sean has been almost at every meeting, but sometimes just the difficulty of getting to the meetings. But they're also kept on the loop on the minutes, so they see exactly what we're presenting as well, and they can see the work that's been done as well. So it's been really beneficial.
Appreciate you guys taking the leadership role in this important stuff.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Delegation from the Regional Board of Education representative to look over the new Charter High School charter agreement.
This is as that agreement is established and created and finalized, we need to have a representative from the board to be willing to look over that document and an agreement as well. So it's more of a conversation. When we get to that point, we just need someone from the board who's going to look through that, check over, providing input, those kind of components. I just wanted to bring it up so we're ready for that when that happens. I know they're working on that currently as we speak, and we're still working quite a bit, but more to come in that area so that you have that. You don't need everybody to look at that as the review, but a couple people or one person, just let me know. Would be interested in that process, and we can make sure that gets to the governance board as well as the people who are working on it.
And two, future agenda items, election on April 4th.
So please vote. No, go ahead. Yeah, the board members up for re-election and get out to do that. So appreciate that. Board members are here. I'm excited. Need one, right? So just keep that in mind. With graduation coming around the corner, as Aiden already mentioned, we're gonna bring back some celebrations in the next meeting. Valedictorians, salutatorians, those kind of individuals to come in and share a little bit about their worlds and their journeys. So look forward to that. And then another future agenda item is to talk about citizen comments, what that looks like. I know we've kind of dabbled a little bit about that, and we've heard some more information from the state as far as how that might look. And I want to just make sure that we're taking some time to invest in how we do the best with our processes in here, and so that we're executing at a high level of those standard operating procedures that we can make happen. So future conversation to come, citizen comments. Absolutely. Okay. So another quick thing for everybody, and so Gary, can you see that? Make sure.
Yes, sir.
Okay. One of the things, again, I think I've mentioned the last couple of board meetings, but one of the things that we're trying to get more data from so that we can get engagement from our staff, from our students, and our families We invested in a survey called Panorama. Panorama is nationally known, and so you get a little bit of understanding here. It was built by like 150 educators, software developers, designers, researchers, facilitators. It's based out of Boston, which really is trying to improve student outcomes with data when it comes down to really briefly. Right now, it serves over 10 million students across the country, with over 600 plus districts, specifically to education. And I know we had Gallup in the past, and that's why we kind of looked at another opportunity so we can get more into that platform of what our educational arena looking like in the survey. Moving on, we started to do these components with a little bit about KWKTs, which are keywords, key times. The what is panorama staff survey capturing specific information so that we can build staff engagement as a district. And this was specifically for our staff, but the same thing for our students and families eventually. We were sharing a little bit about before our staff took their first survey. The why is we're trying to collect a way to information to determine our current state for our staff engagement so we can move to that desired state and help assist them with maybe challenges and things that are going on within their worlds that we can do our jobs better to help better performance and high performing walkthroughs. The how of this, we had a trained walkthrough survey. We conducted the survey back in February on the 20th. We reviewed that with data leadership team already, and we started talking about this with the strategic planning committee. We haven't gotten there yet, but we want to use those voices in various ways to organize different strategies that we're using out of our strategic planning, but then also sharing out next steps through our stoplights that we come forth within May 12th to share out some of that data. And then the impact is by providing this feedback, the district leadership will create commitments based upon root cause analysis to find possible iterations to continue to move this forward as a district. And then filling out these surveys, 10 to 15 minutes during the gathering, will really help us, get to the box of those things. As a tool, again, just to engage where we can be with our staff, students, and families. Again, this one was specific to staff. Of the staff that we surveyed, so I know that's a bigger number than what we have population here. We had 113 staff take the surveys, but there was over 411 surveys given, and the reason why this is that we had it broken down by the buildings. So if you were at FLC, you could take the FLC survey, but you also took a district survey. So we wanted to differentiate so that our building leaders could differentiate what that data looked like from each one of the buildings. So the reason why you see 411 is there was a possibility of some staff members maybe taking 2, 3, 4 surveys, depending if they're at 4 different places. At the most was probably, the average is probably 2 on the general because they have to take the district and then their local building. If they were between 2 buildings, then they would take. So 78% for our first go around at this, not too bad for getting that population of taking the survey. We did front load this in our staff development on February 20th. So we just walked through each of the questions with our staff and had them take it while we were in the auditorium at Horace Mann. Everybody came in the room and explained what this was all about, and we got that. I think pretty good from that. I think the other thing that keeps that, and here's just another little breakdown, but it's kind of hard to see. This it's a little better. So we can find out really quickly how many people took it from each one of the buildings. So we have a breakdown of each of the different areas from Bessie Allen, the district office, to district wide, ELC, Friendship, Horace Mann, and Shepherd Way. And so we can catalog what that is, and we can see whether or not that goes up or goes down depending on the next service. So I didn't lay in the survey results yet because our staff hasn't seen them yet. And what we really want to do is take some time. And the other thing is we've shared them with our district leadership. We've shared them with each individual building leader. And then my role too is to help and coach up each building leader and how they're going to deliver this back to their staff. But the biggest thing that we want when we're sharing out these results is it's not just results. We want to show some kind of commitment and something we're going to do with these results and not just do it like I do. And so what we'll have for every single building leaders, they'll share out the top 3 results from the surveys. And they'll get like maybe a little more specific. These are things that are going really well for us right now. And then they're also going to show up 3 opportunities. 3 of those bottom 3 that maybe they could work on or make small commitments to, assisting that particular area. We need to show that not only for our staff, but our students and families too, of those impacts that we're going to make in change. And then we're going to update and come back and say, hey, we did this. In that meantime, this is what we saw as a result. And then sharing that up before we do those next surveys, just so people are attuned to what's happening. And not just like going through the motions and we ran the survey and nothing's happening yet. We don't want that. We want to increase that participation so that we can get some quality output and input, as well as we want to score as a district. So we talk about staff engagement, we talk about student engagement, we talk about family engagement. This is the way that we start doing our business in terms of getting some desired results that we want. See if there's anything else out here. We'll be reviewing with our staff in a particular way in May, and maybe even before that, and sharing that out just so they can see what the data was telling them, so we can get them in tune with how we can walk through this, what they can expect to see in the future with that, as well as like things that they took back as well. So this is stuff from Panorama that's given us just some basic starter sentences to get some things happening. There is in the Panorama work, there's a playbook. It's called a playbook where we can use it also for students and for staff and other things to help our staff out and to give them more tools that can maybe assist them in the classroom. When we start rolling this out with students, we're more on the SEL, social emotional level, so we know where they're at. And you can really dipstick to see exactly in each of those levels where those students are at that specific time. And you can dive deeper and say, like, how can we help or assist that person? I know every single building has some type of like Oriole time or advisory time or like classroom time where they can break some of those things down. That allows them, that staff member, to really understand a little bit more about who their students are, even though they might think they see a particular thing on the daily. The survey sometimes generally reflects something maybe a little bit different. If you have this high-performing student but might be struggling social emotionally, and never let in on that because the facade or how they carry themselves on the daily. And that's where we can step in and start helping them, providing resources, or at least just check in and make sure that student's okay. So again, just another aid in the long run for our students. Lauren was our test pilot for the families, and we took out a survey just around the teacher conference this time, so a couple of weeks back, and it was specific on one category. There's so many different categories we work on, but this was on barriers. What are the barriers that you have in conjunction to the school? And do you have transportation? Do you have access to communication? Those kinds of things where we know some of the information. Maybe we can do something a little bit differently to help all of our kids, all of our families a little bit more to make it a little more successful for them. So this is what you're going to see in the future. I just want to forecast of this more in May where you see the actual data of what it would look like as a district. We're not going to show individual buildings, but we're going to keep that for everybody within that, but you'll see the overall scores and results from the district level. Any question on this so far? The other thing is Panorama, in contract with them, they also have training professional development for our staff and for us so that we can get better on like navigating the data, choosing the right questions, those kind of things that we do future surveys with other people as well.
Okay, and other notes.
I think the only other thing was we had strategic planning in there as well, correct? Or is that on the second next slide? Okay, new business, perfect. Okay. Perfect. No, that's all I have. It's not a new business. I think it should be added.
Yes. What type of you just doing that?
Yeah, just an overview of what happened at those 5 days, and I know we shared that out. I think it's was in the packet. If you look deep into it, and I guess I think just the narrative of sharing those first 5 days, and what we did is we selected teachers and staff members from each one of the buildings, including all administrators too. So there's about 25 to 26 different staff members that met 5 times at CC6. And then Ted Knightsfield, who was the CC6 CEO, ran us through like strategic planning processes. And what I would say is that it worked out as like building a team. And that was really the starts of it. And I think maybe even my assumption in the beginning was like, oh, we're going to start breaking down. We're going to go after this and like, start working in like goals and things like that. But what he really wanted to try to do is establish that team and establish the culture within that group so that we could have those tough conversations, have those real conversations with each other so that we can make the best of it as we move forward. So what we saw, and if you see in the minutes, there's strategies throughout all 5 of those days that not only can we use within our district as a whole, district level, but the great thing was that all those staff members or anybody in the classrooms or any facet, they could use those strategies as well in their classrooms and use for success. Everything from gap analysis to plan, do, study, act processes that you can really walk through quickly and execute pretty easily without a lot of training, other than just knowing the language and the common language. And that was the other thing. Just as we were talking about the safety, we were trying to establish common language. So when we're doing strategic measures or different protocols, we're all talking that same shop. So it becomes uniform. And we want that same thing for the rest of the district too. Right now, we have 26 members trained in this work. But the longer game is how do we get some of those same strategies and effective measures that we do within staff meetings, committees, or the classroom, so that people are using this on a larger level, so that we get high-performing results. The other big key post is that on April 28th, that all the district leadership will get together with Ted one more time, and we'll be doing key performance indicators. We really look specifically at pockets or pillars or areas we want to focus on, and then what are those pockets that we really want to see growth or achievement in those areas for that desired state. So you're gonna get a little bit more specific on like how that is, and I can kick that back to everybody hopefully in May with some updates on that as well. But I feel like the 5 times and just getting feedback from staff in general is very worthwhile. I think it just took people a little bit of understanding, like it's not going to just jump right into the data. We had some great conversations about like specific things that were going on in our buildings and how we might update or change. And now, at least at the leadership level, we do standard operating procedures, look for gaps in analysis, and we start looking at how we can do planning study acts to better serve some insights. We kicked out the new copy machine. It's not sexy, but it's got teeth a little bit here. But when we kicked out those, there was a thing called the Rule of 3. And the Rule of 3 was simply like following up with people, making sure that when we kicked this out, what were some of those pluses? What were some of those deltas almost within the first 3 days of the work, so that we could capture that, bring that back. And then 3 weeks from now, we're going to be coming back and saying, hey, what were the pluses and deltas? And then 3 months from now, and coming back. So really working on implementation and how that works in our schools. And not just for the copy, but any kind of implementation that we're looking for. So trying to get more input, because sometimes if you just have a committee, we're in a small committee, sometimes you feel like, well, I didn't get a voice in this. Well, we're trying to make sure that we get more voices in the process too as well. Any other questions on that?
Okay, we move to new business. And one, discuss and consider second reading of policy edits, revisions, and deletions.
All right. So, and I know how many people have difficult reading to the board docs. We a little bit got in. Okay. These were the same policies, and this is like the second reading of this. And what I had, and I think we eventually got everyone like copies of the policies. These were the components that we went through last time back in January. Everything from parliamentary authority. I'm not going to read through every single one of these. Student supervision and welfare, criminal history record, service for bilingual students, English learners. All these things were shared in here. I guess I just want to know, from reading what you read and reading some of those updates that you saw within those frames, was there anything else that we need to assess based upon that? Are we good moving forward approving these changes within the additions to these policies?
Or, because this is the second reading, we already went through it the first time.
Right.
Was there anything come out of that as far as question changes?
No, there wasn't really anything. I mean, a couple things that are just still on hold. The library media centers, I think we talked about that, about choosing materials. I think that was a big thing. The other thing that's still kind of, I think that was the big one. That was still, we've got about 3 or 4 other policies that are still moving in hold that we've got to get some committees together and start talking about. I think the only other one that was, had some conversation, but we shared a little bit more about was the human growth and development, and that those components were already in the curriculum, and people have that opt-out choice if they want to with other, options for learning to hit that standard. So those are the same things that we've had in before. I guess it's just, again, adopting what that is. Adam, I don't think if there's anything else in that arena that we had to really clarify, but.
Yeah, no, and that reason I'd love to, future board meeting have our team come and just kind of talk about what that looks like to see you have clarity around that. And, but yeah, kind of that policy is what was mentioned. So.
Is this the one, forgive me if I'm wrong, that has or should have a committee with parents and the people from all different.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Actually, I came up at one of our curriculum director meetings, and it was interesting to know that piece. And it was really interesting working with having a clergy member on the committee, and a few of that really just kind of was interesting. So that's a piece we, and again, like I said, most districts don't even know about, so that'd be something too that we're, as long as that policy still is in place in our district, when it comes to that piece in, have that committee that has representation in the clergy piece. I don't think anyone knew how that would work as far as acting that out, but staff representation, that sort of thing. So
We did have that going back quite a bit. I haven't heard about that for years, but we did have a committee. I don't know if it's still, but that was before we went to that was the timing might have aged out on that stuff. Some make up for that and how it was supposed to be done, but I don't think it was a PPI requirement. I'm not sure of that, but maybe we just check in further.
and it does read that down with that committee and has specific people in the clergy. There was one that really interesting. Really sure.
Clergy or not, if that's something that we can decide or not.
You can, what is authorized.
I still think it's a good idea to have a committee, just especially because it's kind of a hot topic this last year or so. So I don't think it's a
And that's basically what you mean by saying yes to this and we should have committee. But again, who's on that, how that's chosen, that's in this room too.
So look for a recommendation.
In terms of getting a committee, or are you talking about this?
No, it wasn't the policies.
I think that comes back to when we review curriculum, right? Again, and that comes up again, that's when we bring the group together. But as of right now, I think the current curriculum is what it is until we come back to it again. But
Yeah, I remember waiting a little bit. We were just staying status quo until the policy was reviewed by you all, and that was a piece. If you agreed to that policy, then that cabinet committee is part of that. And, but I want to look more into some of the options again. I hear some of you saying, and I would want that committee to have the right people on it and see what the wiggle room is with some of the members mentioned that statute. So. But we could have met just informally as an in-district committee a couple of times just to talk about, hey, here's the policy, here's
to, moving forward. Again, given the policy reads as it does say. So.
One comment I'll make is, I sat through the meeting, whenever it was, we went through this. And now when we got the update in those drafts and that board doc.
Yeah.
I really like that.
New
A lot
draft.
better,
Yeah.
because you can see the whole thing and you can see what actually changed, rather than just.
Just see these little clumps. Yeah. Yeah.
So going forward, we could have it in the board docs. On the first meeting, I think it was.
And all was already pre-loaded and front-loaded, it's just us having an opportunity to get them forward, and it'll make this a lot more effective.
Does that allow for you to have comments and explain something?
The only thing I would have to do is have my own like little sheet like this, so I can add the comments and like what, trying to go with the here. So, but I can do that on the side, and you guys can always have access to that board docs and just run through the draft that way. But having that committee meet before boardroom, board meetings, so you can walk through those together. Again, there's a few things that are on hold right now. We need to take a deeper dive and just put on hold for a while. But we need to come back to, and that's another piece that I have to look into.
All right, item 2, discuss and consider parental options for opting out of standardized tests.
You have to recommend for approval in a second. So I have it on the board, background information says recommended for approval. Is that on yours?
Yeah, but that's on almost everything. I don't think the question is whether we have to state requires us to, or is it just an explanation or information for the board?
I understand we had to approve that we.
I'm looking for the second reading.
Is this a policy? There's a lot of stuff that DPI requires to be done. Like in August, we send out all kinds of stuff to parents because DPI requires that you have a notice of things. And again, I don't know if that's all this is, or if there has to be an actual board approved.
Oh, yeah. From all the policies. I'm sorry, not just the.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, so the second time we formally approved it, so I'm making a motion to approve the second reading of the policy. Edits, revisions, and deletions, with the exception of those on hold. Yes.
Yes.
Critical option for opting out of standardized tests.
I don't even want
Yeah, so this one has been one we brought to the board around this time, last bunch of years. Basically, the state statute, this is one kind of Steve alluded to, that comes from the state, so it kind of reads pretty much just like you see there, that parents, can opt out of those certain grade levels, and then those other grade levels listed for state assessments, grades 3, 5, 6, and 7. Those are at the discretion of the school board. So typically we give principals power to just make those decisions instead of bringing those to the board. But just for some of the background information too, typically we maybe have 10 students total in our district that decide to opt out. We always kind of take a collaborative approach, so sometimes parents can be, if they are thinking about this but they don't understand how that law reads or how that statute reads, so sometimes we inform parents and they say, oh, this will be fine, my student. We want them to take this and talk through how we use that data. So again, very few parents request opting out, typically around 10 or less. I think when COVID hit, we had maybe 25, but that was kind of everywhere. Parents opting
what happens? I mean, is that a?
Yeah, so when we think about our, that DPI state report card, when we think about the federal report card, which comes out publicly in the spring, those both have some parameters as far as like if you're below a certain percentage, you can kind of quote unquote, dig you on those reports, but again, the numbers we typically have, we don't fall into that. And we, again, try to go with what's best for the kid when we're working with the parents in those situations. And so, yeah, so it doesn't really impact us or have an impact us.
This is something the board needs to approve.
Yeah, it's, again, the statute reads that to school board decisions, so in the past, you can have power just to building principals to, and their teams to kind of work through if that's appropriate.
All right. Any other questions? So the motion to grant options for opting out of standardized tests.
Yes.
Yes.
Kowalski, yes. Jaeger.
Yes.
All right. Item 4, discuss and consider approval of revised 2023-24 family calendar. This is on this one. I already crossed it off. All right, discuss and consider selling 0.013 acres to the village and final for Community Street.
Dave, you wanna play with this one really quick?
Bridge on the Street, 2024. 650, 700 square feet to make that work. You pull into Friendship from McKinley Street, it's a little triangle, parallelogram type shape thing that's between the creek and Blacktop. Really don't need it for anything we'll ever do for future.
New driveway and something effective.
When I went to the meeting, with the village, I already had the plat map, and I gave that to the civil engineers right away, and figured it was gonna happen, so.
Is that just to fit the new bridge, so it's on that property and that parcel of land? All right. Any questions?
Do you really wanna know? Yes, one wants to get donation.
Build over a school. I think we should have it in the motion.
So it's what, $750? $750.
All right. So anything
Beckman. Yes. Matthew.
Yes.
Yes.
Kowalski, yes. Jaeger.
Yes.
Discuss and consider approval of revised 2023-2024 family calendar.
So the last time we went, went through the consent agenda, we walked through it at that time and we shared what we were at. But one thing that the calendar committee team was kind of waiting for just to see where Fond du Lac was going to be at for the spring break. And they still had not, by the time that we brought it to the board on the agenda or the consent agenda, they had not determined. So after that, I think that's, a month, 2 weeks later, we finally determined there was going to be a week later from ours. One of the things we were trying to keep in mind in the whole process was the input from our fellow staff members, and one of the big things that kept coming up was we'd get on the same spring break as Fond du Lac. A lot of our teachers and our staff are Fond du Lac citizens, so we want to make sure that we have that. So we reconvened, just like fixing and adjusting a couple different things to make sure that we were in line with all of our minutes again and just everything else, but also on that frame as a calendar committee. calendar committee said, let's look at a change and shift it 1 week out. So that we're looking from March 29th through the 5th, we start back on the 8th of April. A little bit of shift and change, but it also reflects what we feel like that's just keeping conscious of like all of our people, all of our staff, and if we can do that to help out a little bit more within this calendar, I think that's just something that's the best for our community and for our people. So that's what we're asking to get this approval to be able to do that. Based on that, there's really that's the big need that's within this, and we want to get this out to our community. It did get out in the Villager. I think that was the evening that it was released the first time. So we message will say, hey, we want to make sure this is the rationale and why we're trying to make sure we're aligned with Fond du Lac School District too when we're taking this break. And that's where we're at. So,
Did they decide, wasn't there a survey or something for graduation?
it doesn't matter in this one, but I can tell you a little bit about that if you want to hear some stats on that. Okay, so for 2024, so we sent out a survey to our staff at Forest Man High School. And then we also sent out a survey to families or parents about graduation for the 2024 school year. And the reason we did this, if you notice on this calendar for the 2023-24 school year, we're done May 31st. So just want to double check. So, and traditionally seniors graduate the week before or that weekend or the Sunday of the week, and they're done sooner. And so with Sunday being Memorial Day weekend, just felt that that's going to interfere with a lot of people's worlds and commitments that we might not be wanting to do having a graduation weekend where people are traveling and doing whatever they might be doing. So the question that we kicked out to staff and to students, or staff and to families was, if we looked at another date, the date being either Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday before that weekend, what would be best interest for you? And so let's give you a little bit of data so far. They're still open. We sent out the parent survey this past Friday. We've had 33 responses since then. Of that, 51% of the parents, or 17 of those individuals, believe Friday night was the best for the graduation. 24.2%. Both agreed Wednesday or Thursday would be, so 8 on each side, Wednesday or Thursday. When we asked staff about this at Forest Man High School, 45.8% of the 24 responses, so 11 responses, were in favor of Thursday night as the top choice, and 33.3% chose Wednesday at 8 responses, and 20.8% for Friday with 5 responses. That's what I have right now. We really wanted to, solicit as much as we could, keep that out to everybody. The decision is not yet been made on that, but we're just trying to get as much input as we can. But obviously we want to. I guess it comes back to is like how much has the staff, and this is something I'm still trying to figure out, is like how much has the staff been involved in the graduation process in prior years, and has it been an expectation of staff to participate in the graduation? I've been in a lot of different school districts, and it's one way here, one way the other. So walking through that and where we want to be with that. I think future-wise is an important conversation because then we have some different conversations that way, but also then leaning on some more parent impact, family impact, saying, why the Friday versus Thursday or Wednesday. And I'm guessing it's trying to bring families in from outside. You have not had a situation here where you've had an overflow or a restriction of how many people you could fit in the gymnasium pass, maybe I'm wrong, maybe they're limited so many tickets. So because of that, that's another reason why we still haven't had to make that shift. But some districts, based upon the number of people and the amount of families that they bring, 20, 24 people, or whatever you get packed, so you're limited to 4 or 5 take as per family, based on just making space and keeping it safe and whatever convention you're keeping it. So we've got to do a little bit more conversation, but I think it's important that we get this data, this input from others before we make that final call. We do have a little bit of time, but we want to get that out there so people.
Okay. Now, this one of my pet things over the years. There's a long history of graduation date and time here in the district. The board always approves that date, so it would be a recommendation. So we would have a recommendation. And I don't want to get through all that. I'd be happy to sit down with you, but the board finally settled on Sunday, 1 o'clock thing, because it was the least of all the problems. Every year it has one group of parents would come in and want to push it, and then people would say, well, we don't want it. Sunday seems to have the decorum of Sunday travel for people to, if they have family coming in from out of town, it's easier Sunday afternoon. But anyway, I don't want to get too far into that, but one question is, what was wrong with Sunday, June 2nd? I mean, that's a week up, and it's always been recent years, the seniors have always been getting out a week earlier.
And that would just be saying that they didn't be staying in another whole week, because they would be out either like the 23rd of that week of May, or that Friday the 24th of the last day. So then they're waiting for another week before, the 3rd.
And we've done that. That's what they do in the West.
So 2 weeks out from.
Well, going to be one. Second is the Sunday of the week of the 28th.
Yeah, I just always thought that when you're done, you try to get seniors out before waiting for a whole other. I just never done this, so you wait for a whole other week, and that's a conversation we can have. But I felt like if they're done on that day, let's graduate and move forward and finish with the rest of the students for the rest of the year as a possibility.
Seniors are done.
Yeah.
And, time moves on and traditions and things can change. Believe me, and I say today I'm experience here, but we have 2 and 3 monthly meetings in a row with people coming in and very emotional about, how we want to change it to this. What about this? And after we do this, I have one ticket spot from my parents that come from wherever. It's got to be such a headache. I'll just be flat honest with you that superintendent at the time said, let's do it. Sunday it was 2 o'clock, they eventually changed to 1 o'clock. It's been 1 o'clock, probably 15 years or more now. And they said everybody knew that, it's understood. And I think one time it was an attempt to move it to a Thursday night or something, but the board decided to keep that tradition, so everybody had that expectation. So I guess, like any more history in that.
I think the other conversation is like how we want staff involved and what staff availability is the best. Because I think it's also important for staff members to be in the final culmination of what it is. And having staff pulled in on a Sunday afternoon versus on a Thursday night or a Wednesday night, it's just more doable for families, or at least staff members to be able to be there and be present as well, or Friday for that matter. So that's, I guess, it just depends on the staff, how we have them part of the process in future graduations as well.
Yeah, that might change. Right now, the involvement is they attend for in their downs and stuff that they have advanced degrees in, and it's pretty cool. All right,
More to come. Okay.
sounds good. All right, we still have to prove the changing the calendar. It says family, but I'd like to know if it includes staff. We have 2 calendars, so it has to be changed. Staff calendar. So, entertain that motion. Second. Any discussion further? Just one quick thing. I missed, I mentioned this to you. I don't think anybody's gonna be affected by the change that went out and bought tickets for, application based on that first calendar. The one that goes to the villager, I don't think very many people actually see that.
Okay.
Because they don't mail it anymore, it just sits at the.
We're on our website as well.
So, but just so we get that word out.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yes.
Item 5, discuss and consider hockey co-op in Conroe.
Yeah, this won't take long. We did this last time. It's the renewal for the hockey program for boys. We have 2 students here that do it, so I would like to keep that going for them. And they just need it done by April 1st. So signature for yourself and back to you. So we can go and keep these kids playing hockey for fun. It's Kansas, Port, Lomila, Oakland, and Houston, and all take part of this. So we're up to like 20 kids. A little bit over 20 kids of all schools. So
Especially boys.
yep, it's just cool for me.
Any further discussion on that? Motion. I'll second. Roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeager.
Yeah.
Beckerman. Yes. Massey.
Yes.
Carried. Item 6, discuss and consider educator retirement in closed session. There are 2 of them, and I'd like to split that into 2. Items if I can, because I am going to abstain from the first one. The retirement has the financial component to it, so that could be considered a conflict of interest to me. So, why don't we take the first one then? I'll entertain a motion to approve the retirement of Gail Hawk. Any discussion? Roll call.
Yes. Beckerman. Yes.
Abstain.
Kowalski, yes. Yeager.
And then the second motion, considered on paperwork, would be consider the retirement resignation in the Watts Adele.
Second.
Okay.
Yes. Yeager.
Yes.
Beckerman. Yes.
Yes.
Kowalski, yes.
Item 7, discuss and consider considering the employee retirement. Discussed in closed. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call when you're ready. Yes.
Beckerman. Yes. Matthew. Yes. Kowalski, yeah. Yeager.
Yes.
Then item 8, discuss and consider new hire. Is there any tabling that?
You're tabling that.
All right. And the last item is the motion to return, adjourn.
I'll second. Beckerman. Yes. Kowalski, yes. Yeager.
Yes.
Matthew.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, everybody. Great night.